Would you believe it, pilgrims? Would you believe it? Another week. Shunk. Hey, everybody. A very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us here at Grenada Broadcast for today's edition of Gudday Grenada. For several weeks ago, I'd promised you that this program is going to be abbreviated. This program is going to be abbreviated. This program is going to be abbreviated. And we wound up sometimes going 1.5 times as long as we should have. Well, this morning, that's not going to be the case. This morning, just a short while ago, I was advised that our main man, Mr. Brian Pitt, who was supposed to be with us this morning, is not going to be here. And as a result, the program is going to be abbreviated, shortened. Unless you guys can pull something out of the bag and come up with some way to keep me going for the full hour. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But in any event, there are a couple of things that we're going to be talking about here. We're going to be talking, I'm actually going to be asking you the question, how much do you know about cryptocurrencies? Huh? That's something that's becoming increasingly popular, even with all the hiccups and all the challenges they're facing from the regulatory authorities. Cryptocurrencies, essentially, it's another way to do business, pay for things without cash. To some extent, we're already doing that with credit cards and debit cards and stuff like that. But there's another way, underway, if you will. And this morning, I'm going to try and help you to get a better understanding of cryptocurrencies. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, they frequently put out little videos, sometimes once a month, twice a month, to try and help educate the people of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, basically the OECS, on managing their finances. Okay? That's the real purpose of this thing. And a couple of days ago, they sent me a piece. Actually, yesterday, they sent me a piece about cryptocurrencies. Because since there's been so much talk about it, but a lot of people are still scratching their head. Cryptocurrencies. What about the dollar? So we're going to run that by you this morning. And we're going to run it by you in just a wee bit next, actually. After I tell you that, yes, we do have the national report for you this morning. So the only thing that's going to be missing, actually, is Mr. Brian Pitt. I mean, Scully is somebody who's very curious about what's going on in this country. I can tell you, he's not a happy camper. And I received a note from him. I think it was last week. He was on the road last week. Sent me a note saying, George, I can't make it this Friday. That's last Friday. But please hang on to my spot for me because boy, there's a lot to talk about. Eh? Well, we were hoping he would do a little talking this morning, but something else has come up again. And the email he sent here to me says, next week for sure. For sure. Okay? So, Scully, we excuse you. The class excuses you. All right? So that's the reason why I said to you that we may run a little bit short this morning unless you guys have some crazy stuff up your sleeve that you want to harass me about. Hey, why not? Okay, let me say before I start with the ECCB Connects. That's the name of the program. ECCB Connects. It's the first time I'm actually running that on this program, but excuse me, you can always see it on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website. We publish them every time we get them. On Facebook this morning, Bernard Gilbert is saying good morning, and so is Margaret. She said, Margaret, say I reach. Happy Friday from a snowy New York City. Girl, it's another gorgeous, I mean gorgeous day here in St. George. Beautiful, beautiful day. And pretty darn quiet too, because up to the time I came into the studio just a couple of minutes ago, there were no, and I mean no, cruise ships out there today. None whatsoever. So it looks like the streets are going to be pretty quiet. I know I have a heck of a busy day. There's a gentleman coming in here this morning from Jamaica, actually. He's a grandmaster chess player. And I'm going to be talking with him, I think, about 11:15, 11:30 this morning sometime. And for those of you who are chess lovers, you don't want to miss Sunday's edition of SWGG, because what we're going to record this morning will be played on Sunday, okay? I'm also hoping to get down to the Trade Center tomorrow, because that's when all that food, Mags, that's when all that food is going to be dished out. GrenSave is having their annual fundraiser, and I used to go to that pretty often because I just love the variety of foods that they have out there. But I have to confess, I have not been in a couple of years now. And so I think I got talked into it by Margaret, and we're going to try and get down there tomorrow and do some shooting and bring that to you on Sunday. All right? Let me see here now. Let me see here. T.F. Richards is saying good morning. He says New York is under a white sheet today. Yeah, well, stay there. Hey, do you have to go to work? No? Curl up, man, and watch a little TV. Huh? Margaret says, Margaret heard me say the program is going to be abbreviated. So here she is saying, abbreviated? Yeah, right. TF, you know better than that, right? Well, Margaret, if you guys have something up your sleeve that you want to expound on or bung away on, hey, I'm game. I'm game. As long as we don't go past 10 o'clock, because I really have a lot of stuff to do today, okay? Peter Bishop is out there in Long Island. Well, it's snowing in Brooklyn, where TF and Margaret are. What about where you are in Long Island, Mr. Pedro? TF says, I hope we don't have to get the truancy officer for Scully. Yeah. Give him a break, TF. Give him a break. I mean, this guy is so entertaining to listen to and informative. I really like it when he's on here because, he doesn't just bung away. He thinks about what he's talking about and the points that he brings up. Very valid points, which I'm sure a lot of you do yourself, but you just don't get on the air or don't get into social media and talk about it. So no truancy officer for Scully, TF. Margaret says, at the risk of having some folks kill me, I love the snow, so I'm happy. Well, Max, I didn't know you were that fond of snow, but I'll tell you, that puts us both in the same category because when I lived in Toronto, I loved it when it snowed. I really, really enjoy the snow. I like getting out there. I'll uh, I'll never forget my first snowfall. I was going past a school in Toronto, and there were a lot of little kids. When I say kids, I mean 4, 5, 6 years old in the playground, and they were throwing snowballs at each other. And I thought, hey, that looks like fun. So I got out of the car, went and got into a snowball fight with these kids. They pounded the stuffing out of me, but it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, I like snowing. I'm not a downhill skier, but I did ski. I used to cross country, and that was quite adventurous until one day I skied off a ledge, and down below the ledge was a tree, and I wound up dangling in a tree because this idiot skied off a ledge. Yeah, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. What else is here? Margaret says, "Hey, what can I say? Food is good." Yeah, yeah. Peter Bishop says it's also snowing on Long Island. So yeah. Okay, Pilgrims, good morning to you folks out there on social media, and thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a little break. Ooh, it's already 12 and a half minutes after 9 o'clock. Maybe this thing going to be so abbreviated after all, eh? Let's take a little break here, and then we're going to come on back with that edition of ECCB. That's the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And their program, ECCB Connects, after this.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
I see here that Veronica says she likes the snow too. So you see, Mags, we got company. Folks, it ain't all that bad. You know it's going to be cold out there. And you know something? When it's snowing, it's actually not usually as cold as when you have a nice, clear, sunny day with no clouds in the sky. That's when you better wear them long johns. Let me tell you, man. That's when it's really, really cold. Kipling is also saying good morning and sending his blessings to everyone. Now, folks, here comes the ECCB Connects and try and learn a little bit about cryptocurrencies.
Hi, and welcome to ECCB Connects. You've been hearing about cryptocurrency, bitcoins, mobile wallets, and digital currency. But how do these forms of payment work, and how can you access them? Stay with us, and we'll tell you more after the break.
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming.
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
Welcome back to ECCB Connects. On this week's episode, Grenville Williams, attorney at law and director at the Regional Security System Asset Recovery Unit, explains the difference between cryptocurrency and crypto assets, how these forms of payment work, how you can obtain them, and whether cryptocurrencies should be regulated.
I would like to posit that we should really be calling bitcoins and the other 1,600 to 2,000 assets, crypto assets, and not cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, by way of example, in 2013, at the beginning in January, it was worth $20. By December of 2013, it was worth $1,000. In 2017, it started at roughly 1,000 US dollars per Bitcoin. By the end of that year, one Bitcoin was valued at approximately $20,000. Certainly, if we took the Eastern Caribbean dollar and we started the year at $20 and ended at $1,000, none of us in here would be very happy. And why is that? Because currencies have certain characteristics. One of those is that the currency must be a store of value. A crypto asset is technically at this time not a store of value. It should also be a unit of account. If I give you $1 today, tomorrow, theoretically, it should be worth $1. Certainly, there is volatility among currencies, but we are not talking jumps by thousands of percent. And in addition to being a store of value or a unit of account, a currency should allow us to conduct transactions. To an extent, a cryptocurrency does that, but not fully. It should therefore, that is why I would side with the former chairman of the U.S. currency monitoring and certainly the chairperson of the Bank of England in saying those are not cryptocurrencies, they are crypto assets. Today is 10 years since the white paper by Satoshi was launched. And basically what you wanted to do is create a currency that was outside of the normal channels, an alternative to those proposed and controlled by central banks. So much so that in 2008, when his white paper was launched, if we recall, that was also the beginning of the most significant financial crisis of our time. Therefore, a lot of people saw crypto assets as an alternative to currencies that were controlled by governments. But when his white paper was launched, crypto assets did not take much traction with the public. Cryptocurrencies were first utilized by persons predominantly in the underworld, persons who wanted to engage in illegal transactions. So you had a website called the Silk Road that trafficked in narcotics, trafficked in firearms, trafficked in other illegal commodities, and it is there traditionally that crypto assets first found traction. Outside of the Silk Road, crypto assets also found traction in places like WikiLeaks, which was an alternative type of newspaper or news source if we look at that way. There were one or two other areas that saw the benefit to crypto assets. And I speak here not as a person who's opposed to crypto assets or cryptocurrency. I am supportive. However, I think we need to distinguish between crypto assets, cryptocurrencies, and the technology that underlies these. And the technology is blockchain. And it is that technology that can be applied in many different avenues, in many different businesses, to many different solutions to problems that we may encounter. And what blockchain is really, it's, well, something that is probably more comfortable for those persons who are computer scientists and specialists. What it does, it's a distributive ledger. So ultimately, if you undertake a transaction, that transaction is not stored in one place. It is stored across a number of computers. You heard the word nodes. And those nodes really capture the transaction. So that if there are 20 persons using that particular currency or that transaction, the 20 persons will see that transaction at the same time. And that is how they keep a record of it, because once that transaction is confirmed by those 20 persons, then theoretically, that transaction cannot be undone. It cannot be changed. And that is one way that Satoshi was able to solve a problem called double accounting. Once you spend that money, can you spend it a second time? And by using this mechanism, he solved that problem of double accounting. Where can you obtain Bitcoin or any of the other thousands of cryptocurrency? One, you could be a computer specialist or somebody who likes computers, and you could mine it. It's a very complex process. It's also a very energy-intensive process. The other two ways you can get cryptocurrency, the simplest way, is somebody could gift it to you like any other property. But you could also purchase cryptocurrency. One cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, on the markets right now, today it's worth about 6,200 US for one cryptocurrency. So certainly, if you have 6,200 US, you can purchase one Bitcoin. Ethereum and others are a little bit more cost effective, such as, I think Ethereum is about $200 today. One of the questions is, are we prepared in terms of regulations? Yes and no. I would say yes, whereas we may not have specific legislation or regulations dealing with crypto assets or cryptocurrency. It's an emerging technology. Therefore, what we should create is a sandbox. And what a sandbox really is that we allow the technology to be operated as sort of a pilot study. We look at it, we learn, and we see how regulations could best be applied, not to stifle innovation. However, one person argued that had innovation been stifled in Silicon Valley by implementing regulations at a very early stage that stifled innovation, we would not have had the industry similar to what we are speaking about now coming out of Silicon Valley. Certainly, are there downsides to crypto assets and cryptocurrencies? Yes. For one, as mentioned earlier, there's significant fraud related to crypto assets. There are always going to be persons who want to benefit without doing the hard work related to the development of any product. Cryptocurrencies are generally anonymous, and therefore if a person conducts a transaction, you may not be able to identify the person who conducted it, but just the transaction itself. Why is that a problem? One of the issues is that a crypto asset is technically a bearer negotiable instrument. If I have it, I could spend it. It doesn't matter that it belongs to my colleague. And once I spend it, there is no way necessarily to identify that I am the one who spent it. And therefore, you have no redress to claim back your crypto assets. So imagine if you lost one Bitcoin today. I spent it at 6,000 plus US dollars. That's $6,000 that you have lost. In addition to that, cryptocurrencies or assets are predominantly stored on exchanges. Those exchanges require you to get the private key, which is a string of numbers. Many of us in here cannot even remember our phone numbers if it's a new number. Imagine having to remember a number that stores your value. What has happened in some instances? Persons have lost those numbers. What does that mean? It means they cannot access their digital wallet, and if they had their $6,200 in there, that is lost to them. Has it been utilized for money laundering? Certainly it is, but so has other fiat currencies. So that is not necessarily a point against a crypto asset. As I said, there will be people who always do not want to work and apply their energies positively. So it will be exploited for money laundering, terrorist financing, and other forms of illegal activity. Should there be regulation? Yes. In the Eastern Caribbean, the currency union, there is no law or regulation that specifically address crypto assets or cryptocurrency. There is existing money laundering legislation that could potentially capture and deal with crypto assets. There's a case out of the United Kingdom where police seized some crypto assets and they dealt with it as property. So they were able to restrain it, they were able to take it and put it in a wallet and convert it on an exchange that operated in Amsterdam. Why they use the exchange as opposed to auctioning? Because it was cheaper, it was well recognized. One of the challenges with crypto, because it is so volatile, when they seized the crypto, let's say it was worth $6,000, by the time they converted it, it was worth less. So that's a factor as it relates to crypto assets. Two further points. The European Union is already through its 5th European Union directive, moving to implement regulations to deal with crypto assets or cryptocurrency. Further, the FATF, which sets the standards for money laundering, counter-financing of terrorism, proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, they have already moved to set regulations to deal with crypto assets or cryptocurrency. So whether or not we want it regulated, it is going to be mandatory, just as we've had regulations for money laundering and TF to regulate cryptocurrencies. Thank you very much.
To view any episode of ECCB Connects anytime, any place, at your convenience, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn at ECCB Connects. And now, this week's financial tip.
Develop a spending plan so that you can know where your money goes. Spend your money wisely to achieve your financial goals.
We've come to the end of this episode of ECCB Connects. Join us next week when we'll continue looking at financial technology and developments in our payment system with fintech developer Alex Strawn. Be sure to join us.
And so, there you have it, folks, this week's version of ECCB Connects. I'm going to try to bring you some of their other presentations because they're very, very informative. I sat here listening to that and I thought, hey, this is a great idea, but it sounds a little bit complex, and I think that's pretty normal. It's still relatively new, and it's going to take a little while before it really becomes mainstream, if you will. So let's wait and see where that goes. By the way, Kipling here says, I sure will try. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, you might remember yesterday morning, Kipling told us that he had to go have a sort of medical checkup. Well, Kipling, I certainly hope that everything went well, and I see that Margaret is also curious about how things went. And I just want you to know, my dear friend, that I do have you in my prayers. I do. I had my bout with cancer. Given less than 1 year to live. And here I am. That was what, 2000? Back in 2000. 19 years ago. Yeah. We ain't going anywhere until he says so. Kipling says, what is the use of setting regulations without keeping it? Yeah, again, that's good question, sir. Good question. So often we hear about all of these regulations, and not just the regulations, even the legislation that's passed in Parliament. Last night I was watching the news, and I saw a local attorney talking about the need for us to purge some of the legislation that we've got on our books. Crazy legislation. And one he talked about was, did you know that it's illegal to beat a drum within, I don't remember the distance, but I think within a certain distance of the city center? And he was making the point that people like the Tivoli drummers, for example, they can't go down to Tantine and beat their drums because it's against the law. Can you believe that? Another thing he made a point, flogging. Apparently a lot of countries have stopped doing that, and others are working on getting rid of that legislation. But flogging's still on the books here. And he thinks, we talk about shedding the bonds of colonialism. This kind of stuff still goes on in this place. Let me see here. We've been joined by Donna. Hello there, Donna. Hope everything's fine with you. Margaret says to Kipling here, very good question, Kipling. We good at making laws, but enforcing is another story. Yeah, that's what we just said. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. What is it about us as a people? We've got some brilliant minds. But some others are just very dense. Dense. And usually they seem to be the ones who find their way into positions of authority. Oh boy, who said life was fair, eh? Okay. Take a little break here, and we're going to come on back with the National Report.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Speyside.
Redlec, energizing our Grenada.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
Grenada signs multilateral air services agreement. Stay with us, we'll have the details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Thursday, February 28th, I'm Delroy Loazan. Grenada has become signatory to the CARICOM Multilateral Air Services Agreement, which is intended to make the Caribbean community a more liberalized environment for CARICOM airlines. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell signed the agreement at the just concluded intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM in St. Kitts, Nevis. Dr. Mitchell was among 4 CARICOM leaders who signed the agreement Wednesday, bringing to 9 the number of countries that have now become signatories. As explained on the CARICOM website, the CARICOM Multilateral Air Services Agreement expands the scope for airlines owned by CARICOM nationals to provide air services throughout the community. Further, the agreement allows for no restriction on routes, capacity or traffic rights, and should facilitate increased intra-regional travel and provide more cargo options for exporters and importers with resulting cost savings. Meeting in a special session on transportation, Dr. Mitchell and his CARICOM colleagues agreed that member states should undertake a review of their domestic taxes and other charges related to the air transportation sector, with a view to simplifying and streamlining the relevant tax structure. CARICOM leaders are seeking to provide travelers in the region with adequate, competitive, and efficient air transportation services at affordable prices. Dr. Mitchell also signed the Declaration of Intent to provisionally apply the Protocol on Contingent Rights on Wednesday. According to the communiqué from the meeting, this would apply the measures that would allow the nationals to benefit in those countries from the provisions of that agreement on contingent rights, which allows for spouses and dependents of skilled workers who move to another country to access services such as education and health on the same basis as nationals. Fishermen and residents of Sater St. Patrick are again being affected by the heavy influx of sargassum seaweed. The beach in Lower Sater, which has recently been restored by the construction of the Breakwater project, is covered with sargassum, but work is underway to rid the beach of the seaweed. In recent years, Grenada and several Caribbean islands have been affected by the sargassum seaweed, and this government had to devise measures to remove it from affected beaches. Residents from St. Patrick who preferred to remain anonymous told GIS the influx of seaweed is heavier this time around. They are, however, happy that the parliamentary representative, the Honorable Pamela Moses, had contracted 2 gangs to clean the seaweed on Thursday morning. One resident said because of the dry season, the odor of the seaweed is not obvious. She said in the past, once it rains, the stench becomes unbearable and unhealthy. The Grenada Tourism Authority has unveiled 8 Pure Grenada Spice of the Caribbean storyboards, which are designed to enhance the cruise visitor experience outside of St. George's. A commissioning ceremony was held Thursday at the Melville Street Cruise Terminal, where the boards are erected. Minister for Tourism and Civil Aviation Dr. Clarice Modeste-Kerwin says it's all part of their overall efforts as Grenada seeks to ensure visitors have a memorable experience.
Since overall in 2018 we reached the 500,000 mark, or the 500,000 mark, in terms of visitors, and our numbers are increasing to grow, we cannot just sit on our laurels and take it for granted that they will continue. I mean, we know Grenada has a lot of natural beauty and so on, but people are looking for more than that. They're looking for the experience. To dance in with somebody who does the lancers or the whatever you call it and so on. This is what they want, to taste the oil down, to see how you prepare it. And so every meeting we go to now, they will talk about the cruise ships coming. They may talk about hotel rooms, but what they talk about most, every speaker says, the experience you have. We have the main ingredients. We have a warm, loving, welcoming people that are unequaled nowhere on earth. They do not have their equal. Everybody says the same thing about Grenada. So we have the basic ingredient, but we needed to do a little bit more, put the icing on the cake, whatever, and you have done just that.
Manager for Nautical Development at the GTA, Mrs. Nicoyan Roberts, says the project shows what can result from public-private partnership.
These storyboards, they feature a myriad of quality, safe, amazing attractions outside of St. George's. They will encourage our cruise guests who get off these beautiful cruise ships to take tours around Grenada and to enjoy making wonderful memories. The storyboards are also a strategic call to action so that these cruise guests can book tours immediately and take part in co-creating wow experiences around Grenada.
This is the National Report. We'll be back in just a moment.
Big business don't participate.
Welcome back. Manager of Cricket West Indies, Raw Lewis, has praised local groundsmen for their work to ensure that the field at the National Cricket Stadium was at an internationally accepted standard for the third and fourth one-day internationals. Rain forced the abandonment of the third ODI on Monday, and England defeated the West Indies by 29 runs in the fourth match on Wednesday. Lewis says the efforts of the groundsmen should not go unnoticed.
When we came here 2 months ago and what I see now today, honestly, credit must go to Mr. Hollas, the head groundsman here. I think sometimes we bypass these things, but I'm sure he would have worked beyond his working hours to get this facility, him and his staff, to get it up to standard and, so that everyone can come out and enjoy some good cricket. So I want to give the groundsmen of the National Cricket Stadium 100%. Very well done, guys, and keep going. It's very good for Grenada to have a good facility.
Sports Minister Senator the Honorable Nolan Cox says all involved in the overall preparation of the Games must be commended for going the extra mile, working on a tight schedule.
We must look at the process and the amount of work and collaboration that were put together for us to be here today. So we just want to take this opportunity to recognize the Grenada Cricket Association, the staff, the Ministry of Sports, and everybody, all our stakeholders who help us to get to where we are. Because we had a tight window, and we can see just from the outfield, persons here, the whole ambience, we can see that it was a success in terms of getting to where we are.
And finally in the news, teachers from 15 pilot schools across Grenada are now receiving training as part of the OECS Education Support Project. The most recent training focused on the primary grades curriculum standards and assessment framework implementation. The OECS Primary Grades Learning Standards describe the long-term educational goals that pupils should achieve by the time they complete a specific grade or education level. This series of training sessions seek to empower teachers in the 15 pilot schools to effectively implement the standards and connect curriculum standards, curriculum, instruction, and assessment to provide meaningful learning. GIS spoke with several participants to find out more about its expected impact. The training was conducted at the Grenada National Stadium on February 21st.
What we're doing this week is really sharing with the teachers the core learning standards. That is language, math, science and technology, and social studies. There they have the benchmarks for which their teaching and learning experience that takes place in the classroom can work towards the students achieving that grade level standards in all core areas.
We would have been enlightened as to the new system as it relates to teacher planning and delivery in the classroom. I am taking away from this session that my way of planning my lesson will be different.
Well, what I can start implementing immediately is the way in which I plan. We'll be using some of the same, we'll be using our curriculum, it's still, and incorporating it with this new way of doing it. So, in other words, like rather than writing like a weekly focus of work that we're going to do for the week, we're going to be concentrating on a unit, yeah, where we would incorporate like a longer period as it relates to a particular subject area.
One of the things that stood out to us is that we have to ensure that whatever it is we teach the children, it collaborates with the standards and also the curriculum guide.
That will be on the level with the rest of the region as it regards to standards. So a teacher in another Caribbean country on grade 4 level would be doing the same thing, would be guided by the same process, right? And so we'll be doing the same things so that in the event that a teacher moves or a student moves even to a different school or a different area, that they could easily fit in, right? Because we have those standards that guides our practice.
Teachers are going back to their schools with that and the skills or the know-how how to plan lessons using the standards, how to assess using the standards.
A special committee in the Ministry of Education will monitor and evaluate the progress of the primary learning standards implementation.
By June, we should get an idea of how effective the standards are being used, what are the strengths, its weaknesses, opportunities, and the way forward. Hopefully come July, we will train all teachers throughout Grenada, whether or not you're in the pilot or not, to use the standards. And from September, the entire island, all our primary schools will be using the core learning standards, both public and private primary schools.
That story concludes the national report for Thursday, February 28, 2019. Recapping the top story, Grenada signs multilateral air services agreement. On behalf of the entire news team, management and staff of the Government Information Service, I'm Delroy Louison, thanking you for joining us.
Okie dokie, folks. Just before I get to my analysts out there in social media, let me say something here. Or you could talk we. Huh? Didn't you hear some talk about an abbreviated program this morning when we got started? I didn't think we would go past 9:30. Well, here we are, 9:52. And I still have to get to social media here, which I'm going to do right now. First of all, before we tackle the GIS report, earlier on we were talking about, making laws and regulations and all of that, which just go by the wayside. And T.F. Richards made a comment here. He says, George, do you know that it's illegal to go onto a minibus with big bags, like shopping bags, and persons who come to town with produce, to go to the market and sell their goodies? According to our laws, you should only have your pocketbook on a minibus. That's all you're supposed to be carrying on a minibus. Yeah. That and the seatbelts issue. Yeah. Just yada, 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 yada. Sharon says, I agree with Kipling and Margaret. For example, ever looked at the laws regarding the FIU? I guess, as George Orwell said in Animal Farm, all men are equal, but some are more equal than others. I can't tell you how many times in my life I've heard that book referenced. People keep going back to that, especially that quote that Sharon Roberts just made. TF said, did you also know that it is illegal to sweep dust from a store onto the sidewalk within the town? Strange, but true. Now, let's get to the GIS report. Yeah. Or you could talk. Margaret is pointing out a grammatical error here. She says, shouldn't that be Grenada has become an authority rather than what you heard being presented in the GIS report? Kipling says, it's strange, but did you know that here in America they make laws to protect laws? Very valid point. Not just in America, Kipling. Here too. TF says, there we go again. Grenada signing something again. Yeah. TF, we have signed on to so many treaties in this place that are never enforced, never administered the way they were intended to. And sometimes I wonder if these people are only signing on in order to get grants, Sometimes I don't think they even know what they're signing on to. You can go through history and you will see how many treaties we have signed on to which just aren't being enforced. Is that why you call it mamagism? Let's see here now. Margaret says, these CCOM leaders are a bunch of piranhas that fleece air passengers with taxes. Yeah, a lot of people blame the airlines for the high ticket prices. One of these days, when you've got some time on your hands, sit down sit down and analyze the various components that go into arriving at the airfares that you pay, you'll see how many of those elements are taxes. Taxes. And we blame the airlines. The airlines don't really have any control over the taxes. TF says, I tell all you, Keith on his dying political days. Look how many years Liat catching its royal, and the government's doing nothing. But here we are, now looking to open a market. Are these soon-to-be retired politicians looking to buy a plane so they're opening the way? Good question. He says, we may just see another Grenada Airways. I didn't think about it that way. But again, people just want to know. Jennifer. Hello there, Jennifer. Good to see you. Saying good morning to everybody. And a blessed and safe weekend to everyone. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I return those compliments to you. Margaret again. Margaret, are you sure you weren't a school teacher in your past life? Margaret says here, couldn't we simply say, quote, a commissioning ceremony took place? In broadcast, you always kiss. That's a lesson I learned early days, Margaret. Kiss, by the way, means keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. Yeah. Kipling says, I remember Mr. Boastwin, B-O-A-S-T-W-I-N. You know what he's talking about, right? He says, I remember Mr. Boastwin wanted another term to fix all these problems. Yet, when he win, he wanted no ministry. Just his gratuity. I'm not sure what that word is. Just his gratuity. Do you mean gratuity? I'm not sure, Kipling. He says, when these ministers speak, they make sure we keep our dictionaries closed. I like that. TF says, I cannot and will not understand authority. The senator is speaking about a tight schedule. Since early last year, we knew of the games coming up. So what's the cause of the so-called tight schedule? Inquiring minds want to know, TF. He goes on to say here, I applaud this move to train teachers. I've always said that Grenada has a vast quantity of educated, selfish persons. These persons attend courses and return, and nothing is done to help others. Instead, they just love to decorate their walls with certificates, and the human element continues to suffer. Fitzroy Adams is saying here, good morning to all. Sorry to be late, but it's better to be late than never. I stayed up until 3 a.m. looking at Karaoke Queen show. It was wonderful. Then how come you weren't there? T.F. Richard says, George, whenever you think your program is or would be short, just announce that today would be an open forum. Stop trying to or attempting to run away from the class. We know it's Friday. Okay, teacher TF, I got you. And Beverly Mitchell is saying good morning. And Lincoln is sending his blessings. Have a blessed day every day. Much love always. Thank you, as always, Lincoln. Pilgrims, your abbreviated program this morning has now gone an hour and 2 minutes. Yeah. But on that note, Georgie Porgy is now going to pull the plug. By the way, cinnamon tea. Cinnamon tea. Good stuff. Join us on Sunday morning. I mentioned to you that, what you heard me mention, that the Venezuelan ambassador is going to be coming here to sit in that chair right next to me here. His name is Jorge Guerrero Veloz, V-E-L-O-Z. Yeah, he's coming in to see us. We also hope to show you what's taking place down at the Trade Center tomorrow, that GrenSave fundraiser. And in a short while from now, I do have Grandmaster chess player. This guy has a very interesting story to tell. He's going to be in here at about 11:15, 11:30 this morning. And I'm sure there's going to be some more stuff as well as the editorials on Sunday. God bless you, pilgrims, and by his grace I shall see thee on Sunday morning.